Nicky, appreciate you coming on the podcast, my brother.
Appreciate you having me, man.
It's a lot of back and forth with your publicists for the past 2 years, but finally, you penciled me into your schedule, so I'll utilize
Yeah,
these 10 minutes you gave me wisely. All right.
no, we're good, man. We're good.
All right. So, like I said, as always, right, military. Before we stand a watch, we must know our 11 general orders. Well, here
Yep.
on the Midwatch podcast, before we start, we go over the 11 general questions. All right, you ready for this?
Ready. Let's see him.
All right, it's kind of a rapid fire. All right.
Okay.
First thing comes to your mind. Favorite superhero?
Spider-Man.
All right. Who would win in a cage fight? Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Oh, I gotta go with Bruce Lee, man. I feel like Chuck Norris was one of those dudes that like just was capitalizing on a small bit of credibility and then went to Bowflex and he just cashed out entirely.
Went
And
right
did
to info commercials.
Yep, that's it.
All right. If you could raise one person from the dead and have them walk in the modern world, who would it be?
Ooh, ooh. Who would appreciate that? That's a good question. Because if I'm showing them the world that is out there today, you know who it would be? Probably like Thomas Edison, right? Invented light bulb, right?
Right.
And I'm sitting here in front of this light right now, and it's like, whoa, you're controlling how much light is coming from them. You are able, and not only that, but I control it from this device. That would trip him out. He'd be like, no way. I started that. This light is connected. Like, there's no way. You have lights on this box thing computer. He'd blow his mind. So yeah, that Thomas Edison.
That's a really good answer, actually. Yeah. I like that. That's a good answer.
Yep.
All right. What was your first car ever?
Oh God. Okay. If you want to cover my questions. No, I had a 95 Toyota Camry champagne gold. It had leather seats. Tell you what, man. But I got it for Christmas from my grandmother because I like lived away from my parents my senior year, had no car the first half of that year. And yeah, man, that was a beast. And I'll never forget, I had it for like 6 years. And the guy that I took it to over at Miramar, like he knew I was like that guy that was like, this is my baby. It's not much, but I take care of it. And he was like, dude, you really like take care of this car. I said, I know, because I don't want a car payment. And I just love the fact it drives well, has AC, heat, and literally just gets me from A to B. I'm not paying anyone else. So yeah, that's my first car.
Nice. Very cool. All right. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive? And dinner. Oh, if I was gonna have what's his face? Bourdain.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah, I'd have to go to the board. If you're eating dinner with somebody, he would take me to the best restaurant and it would be the most hole in the wall place. And I feel like he understood culture enough that I would have a deep conversation with him.
I like it.
Yep.
All right. If you could be any movie character in real life, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I like that. If I could be anybody, a movie character in real life. So I don't watch a lot of movies, to be transparent, but if I was to be anybody from a movie, who do I want to be? Sorry, you stumped me on this one.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, this is a hard one. This is going to sound really left field and very sentimental. I want to be that little kid from Big Daddy.
Frankenstein.
That's how I want to be. No, and so to be very transparent, I haven't even told my dad this, and I think like my family's always like, "Why do you love this movie?" And only thing I can reflect back is I think it showed me like a relationship of what I think a father would be like, and I didn't have my dad around very much, and so when I did, I always wanted it to be like that dynamic. I think if I could go back in time and be that kid, I don't know, it just like it portrayed a very genuine level of like father-son type relationship, even though it wasn't the most realistic, if you will. So yeah.
I like it, dude. All
Yeah.
your answers are good, man.
Thank
Super
you.
deep. All right, favorite. Well, I mean, you say you don't watch movies, so this might be a hard one for you.
No, it's
But
okay.
what's your favorite chick flick?
Oh, favorite chick flick. Interesting. Okay. Um, favorite chick flick would probably have to be. Okay. This is kind of a chick flick, I think, in its own right. And it's still, and by the way, I'm a big Adam Sandler fan, but Anger Management.
Okay.
It's because there's that scene where she's like, "What do you mean? Am I fat?" And she's like
Yeah.
shoving her face. And it's just like one of those. Actually, retract. Okay, we're gonna go back. I have another one that I think doesn't get the love. Anger Management definitely got love because it was more comedic. But if you want me to be more strict with the chick flick, Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser,
Okay.
where he has the 7 wishes and he's like, I want to be real strong, you know? And he's like this basketball player that like super strong, but tiny Johnson, you know? And so it's just like, it kind of shows this like level of like, just be you, man. You're gonna have a fault no matter if you're in the NBA or if you're like the most sentimental guy or you're whatever you want to be. It's not gonna change much. So yeah.
All right. If you have to pick one, honor, courage, or commitment.
I would say commitment. I think I do very well with commitment stuff. But staying the path is hard for a lot of people. I think most people, they're like, yes, I have honor in what I do. Yes, I have courage to, you know, say something when things are wrong. But I mean, I think commitment is such an internal factor that people don't even consider. Are you going to go to the gym? Are you going to make a video 3 times a week? Are you going to, you know, go to school and finish this degree? Are you going to, like, no one else can really share that with you too much. I mean, and you have your own personal relationship with that, I think, a lot more than honor or courage, right? Like, I think commitment's a daily thing that we interact with way more than
Right.
those other two. But that's
And
just
even,
me.
and, you know, being committed to something alone is an honorable thing. So you kind of
Yeah.
get, you know, both that one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on here. So if all jobs paid the same, what would you do?
Ooh. I got one for you.
Be a corpsman?
No, not even about that. So I'm checking into my new command, and for anyone that may listen to this, they may find it funny, but the guy that's checking me in, we have this training website, eSAMS. I don't know if you remember that site, but you have to, you do all your safety training on it. And his entire job is to enroll you into it, tell you how you have trainings to do, and sends out like, hey, it's snowing season. Be careful skiing or snowboarding. That's the job I want. And he was a retired Master Chief. And I said, that's what I want to be. Because I can tell he's not stressed. I can tell he's like, the paycheck's still coming. I at least have a role here. And is it the most important role? No, but if someone thinks about something, you know, before they go on a trip or whatever, I'll take that, you know. I think I just want to alleviate my stress.
All right. If you're in an airport and the airliner gave you one free ticket to go anywhere you want, where would it be?
Dublin, Ireland. I'd go back to Ireland in a heartbeat. That
All right.
is that. Listen, man, it doesn't get as much love as it should. People think of Paris, London, Barcelona, Rome, all those places. And I'm like, man, if you want to see some of the greenest places you've ever been to, nice people, great food, yeah, go over to Ireland. It's amazing.
All right. All right. Last one on the list here. What's one item on your bucket list?
One item on. Stressing me out, man. Recently I've been wanting, so offline we talked about how I was like trying to manage YouTube as like not a break from it, but like do it just when I need to do it, right? Or when I want to do it. But in my mind, I'd have to say like I want to do something physical. So right now I'm working my hands, or I want to do something like active. So I'm going to double head this one if you're looking at it, because I think they're kind of different things. One, I'm about to build my own coffee table, like with a concrete slab top and make it look like super fucking dope and like industrial and modern.
Okay.
Because I look at all the stuff that you buy at the store. And I'm like, that's junk. That's junk. Like, all right, let me try and do it myself, you know? And now I'm back in the States, I can do that. The other thing is probably like a marathon. And I ran like a little over 2.5 miles today and died. So I have a long way to go. But I'm working on it. So yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, hey, do you have for your running, do you have like a plan that you follow, or are you just going out and running?
I'm just going out running right now.
All
Because
right, I have a really good plan I could send you that like it
did you
we'll
run a
talk
marathon?
I mean 10 I'm up to 10Ks now.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
from someone 2 years ago who could barely run the PRT without having 7 heart attacks to like now comfortably running a 10K, like this plan is we'll talk
Send it.
offline about
Yeah,
it though.
we'll
Yeah.
send it, man.
All right, cool. All right, man. So good. 11 general questions. Appreciate you. You
Those
actually
were deep. Those were
you had
deep.
some really good like deep answers. I liked it, man.
Thank
It
you.
was good. A lot of thought.
Yeah.
All right, man. So as always, right, the whole point of this podcast is to document, right?
Mhm.
So I want your kids, your grandkids to watch this video and however many years and get to know you, right? That's the magic
Oh yeah.
of technology these days, right? We don't need to
Yeah.
just rely on pictures. So if we could zoom back to high school, right? I'm in your senior math class with you. Who are you? Who am I sitting next to?
Oh, a dude that has no idea what he's about to get into, man. I was okay. So let me point this out to everybody. I had no intentions of joining the Navy when I was in high school math at all. I looked at the high school JROTC. I was like, these conformist kids that are just being brainwashed to be in the military, right? Like, that's funny that I joined out of anybody, but I guess I'm one of the people the military is targeting too. Um, but you're sitting next to a kid that is very optimistic. I was very optimistic, and I just knew something was going to happen. I wasn't even sure what it was. I was just like, I'm not going to be a loser, but I don't know how I'm going to be successful. And that's kind of where I looked at it. And I was like, I know school is not my right mature path at that point. And I just was like, man, in that summer, it wasn't the fact that people like went to college and I was missing out. I didn't even care because I was like, I don't even know what I would go to school for. You know what I mean? But I was very optimistic about that. I was very much thinking short term. I was like, in the next 6 months, to the next year, to the next, I appreciate the fact that I was so in the moment at that point in my life. I wish times I could get back to that, because I think as I've gotten older, it's like, well, what about the 20-year plan of me like retiring and doing this and that? Where I think now it's like, okay, can I scale back my mindset to now be the Nick that was in math class, that what is only thinking about next month, next week, hell, what's for lunch,
Right.
So yeah.
It's just the innocence of being young, really. That's all
Oh
it is.
man.
Go ahead.
Ignorance is bliss,
Oh yeah.
100%. And I almost missed that. I heard a kid the other day. He's like, I was at the golf course and he's like, oh, I'm going to be like an F-35 pilot. I'm going to go to this ROTC program, do that. Then I'm going to go to flight school. Then I'm going to be in the Air Force. And and I was like, he didn't say it to me, but I overheard him saying this to someone else. And I was like, not doubting you. I will encourage you 1,000,000%. But at the same time, I want like, keep that awesome enthusiasm and motivation, but also check it with a little bit of reality, a little dose, but then don't allow the reality dose of bad stuff and just negativity overflow that. Just keep going forward. But yeah, that's kind of how it was. So what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, did you play any kind of like sports or anything, or chess club, drama club?
There's so many things I should have done that I never did. But to be fair, like, what was it partially me? Yes. Was it partially not me? Yes. So I grew up in a house of 4 kids. So like my eldest brother was 7 years older than me. My brother Robert is like 5.5. Then my sister Becky was 4 years older than me. And so like I tell people, by the time it got to me, anything I wanted to do that was like fun was already done. And so my parents were like, he already tried the trumpet. He didn't want to stick with it. Okay, we're not doing that. He already did karate. Okay, we're not sticking with it. Boy Scouts. I didn't do any of that. I did not do a sport until I was uh 11 or 12 where my dad, which didn't live with me, or I didn't live with him, signed me up for baseball. And that was, I did like 3 or 4 seasons of that. And then skateboarding just was like the natural progression because I could do it without needing to be somewhere at a certain time. My family wasn't good with like days and timelines and going to places. It was just not part of their core of what they wanted to do. So yeah.
I mean, because you're the same age as me, right? You're 30s, early
Yeah,
30s.
I'm 31.
Yeah, so like skateboarding back then was like, I mean, you had like the Tony Hawk just came out like on N64.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so
Bam
Bam
Margera.
Margera. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
But
Awesome.
but let me preface this, not to be like that hipster. I was into it before everyone else. No, but I seriously, my brothers had skateboards and I would have to beg to ride their skateboard. That was it. And they were like these cheap Walmart boards still, but theirs are still somehow a little bit better than mine. I have no idea. And we had these like, I don't know if you remember like the little curbs that are in neighborhoods where they're not like a angular curb, like a 90-degree, but it's like a little ramp thingy.
Yep.
And I would just like ride on that and act like I was like on a ramp. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, dude, I could actually skate something.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom took me to the skate park and I remember it was raining. She was like, well, let's just go look at it. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go skateboard, but I don't want to go look at a bunch of concrete ramps that have rain on them because it was sprinkling. I remember she had her umbrella and I'll never forget. I was like, I can't ride any of these. And these were like easily 5 foot plus. Mind you, I'm talking about curbs that were like 6 inches, literally. Right. I was like, there's no way. I went there the first day and I'd actually dropped it on every single ramp. I don't even, yeah. So
that's impressive.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I just was like, I'm going to do this. And I did. So, crazy.
And you've been skating ever since? Really never stopped?
It's always like a love that comes and goes. It's never something that you like. I could never be hardcore at it because of work and life and everything else, but it's always like a love you go back to, right? Just like if it's Pokemon or if it's skateboarding or if it's what, like you can always go back to it and be like, oh yeah, I remember why I love this, you know?
Right. But brings back all the feelings.
Yeah, but COVID, I started skating hardcore. That was like, I was off every other day. I was skating hardcore. So much I was getting hurt. Like it was bad. And good thing we weren't running PRTs. I did mess up my wrists. Like I fell when I was landing on a trick and I fell on my wrist and I had to do a PRT. And then it was like a couple days later, they're like, no, we're pushing it a couple days more later. I was like, thank God. I was like doing Motrin ice, everything, because my wrist was just killing me. I couldn't flex it at all. So yeah, it's my life.
So so kind of going back to, so you got out of high school, didn't really do the school thing, anything like that. What was the timeline between, that and when you did join, and what kind of led you, to even walking into a recruiter's office?
Okay, so I'll preface this. My mom and my stepdad didn't go to college, and my dad didn't go to college either. So realistically, I was very much taught at a young age, like, hey, dude, college, that's a thing. I don't really understand it. It's not enforced. It's not really pushed. It's like, I'm doing okay, right? Like, and so it's all blue collar stuff. And so it's like, and my stepdad had at that point been in the Marine Corps for an enlistment, got out, and was like, hey guys, you want to go to college, you want to be successful, like you got to work hard or join the military. Like that's it. And I was like, okay. And that was like just throughout time. I always heard that message. No one ever actually took it from my brother's side. And then I graduate June timeframe of 2008. And I'd moved down to North Carolina, Fayetteville area where my parents were at. And they're sitting there and they're like, all right, cool. You got a job at Barnes and Nobles. What are you going to do? And then I was like, dude, I was still 17. My birthday is in August. And I remember it was June and my stepdad's like, hey dude, like you're going to be paying rent soon. And I was like, what? I just graduated high school. Like, can I get like a little, like, pause on that for a second? I mean, I'm not a total idiot. I'm not like doing drugs or anything like my brothers were. I was not even a hard kid to deal with. But anyway, I understand it takes money to turn on electricity. I understand that as a guy or as a man now, but at the same time, I'm like, it would have been nice to have like a pat on the back. I got you. Let's figure this out,
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the case. And I remember during that senior year when I didn't live with my family during that because they'd moved down to North Carolina because of his job. I went to the dentist and it was like $100 a filling. It was like all this money, and I had braces and I had a bunch of dental work that needed done. It was like a couple $100. Man, how would I ever pay for that? Working at Barnes and Nobles, never, right? I would have to suffer, and I had like a root canal at the time when I'd had that done. I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. Like, I just kind of like naturally thought, I was like, what would allow me to get out of here and pay for my stuff and not pay rent to my parents? Military. So I went to the Navy, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to MEPS. I'm gonna do all. And my mom's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That is fast, Nick. And I was like, what do you mean? These are the steps. You told me to join the military. You said I should do this. And now look at me now. I'm actually doing it. And so she's like, well, you should check every branch first to see what benefits you get. I don't even agree with that even now. I'm like, dude, the GI Bill, VA, all these, they're all the same thing. Like
It's all the same. Yep.
It's all repackaged. It's the experience you want. What experience you want? What flavor do you want? And so I was like, Mom, I remember I said this almost verbatim. I said, Mom, I can't go to every branch, 2 weeks in the Air Force, 2 weeks in the Marines, 2 weeks in the Air Army. She's like, I know, but, and I was like, but what? There is no but. You got to make a decision. And honestly, like I did listen to her, and I went to the Air Force. I was like, all right, let me try that. Walked in, the recruiter's like, oh, you took the ASVAB in the Navy already? Well, here's a sheet. Check this out, see what scores you even get, if you're going to get anything. And I was like, okay. Should have been. I just felt like he's very dismissive, you know? And I was like, oh, well, this Navy dude over here is pretty cool. And he's like telling me all about the Navy, and he was a QM, a quartermaster. And I was like, what is that? You guys count quarters or something? And then he was like, nah, man, we like do charts and navigate. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's kind of weird. Yeah. Then I started realizing the Navy had all these weird names for jobs that like weren't the actual names of the jobs, like hospital corpsman, master at arms, you know, all that. So I remember, because we're going up to the timeline of me joining, and that was like July. I remember I didn't even say, took me to the ASVAB, just was like, hey, I'll take you today. You're here for paperwork. They're doing one. You want to do it? And I did it, scored a shitty score. But they were like, oh, dude, if you get a 50 or higher, you're good. Like the practice test, I did something. And they're like, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Once you get 50 plus, you get any job. Total lie. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. And 13 August of 2008, I went to the MEP station to actually process. And I didn't really understand like how real it was at that point. Like, dude, if I sign this thing, I'm leaving when I sign this thing. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I was still 17 when I signed. I had 2 days to my birthday. My dad lived in Maryland. I was in North Carolina doing this in Raleigh. My mom already signed the letter saying, yes, he can sign his life away to Uncle Sam. My dad had not. And it was partially because the recruiter I was his first applicant ever, literally. So he brings me over to the side. He's like, hey man, your dad, like we're sending a recruiter 2 hours away to go get his signature and fax it down. So they do. Yeah. They drove 2 hours that day while I was at MEPS. And so I'm there, I don't want to come back here, man. This place sucks. MEPS does suck. And then I was like, all right, man, like, come on. And then they were like, we got the paper. I remember they came out, they're like, you come here, sat me down. Class was like, hey man, we're about to do the last swear. And like, you got to pick something. And I was there maybe 5 minutes, gave me logistics specialist or storekeeper at the time, culinary specialist, gave me hospital corpsman, gave me LS, CS, quartermaster, and hospital corpsman. I had no idea of any of these, but I knew medical was a good job. That's all I knew. I was like, all right, cool. And I had no idea what these were. And I knew quartermaster was I knew I didn't want to be a cook. I knew I didn't want to be a quartermaster because he said he stood a lot of watch. Then corpsman was just like made sense. The culinary specialist was obviously not going to be my choice. So anyway, he's like, well, pick, man. And I was like, oh, hospital corpsman. All right, cool. What day? And then he tells me my ship date was November 4th. And I was like, all right, cool. I get back and I go through all this and I get back to the recruiting station. My stepdad picks me up actually. And he's talking to the recruiter and he's like, oh yeah, he signed for Corpsman, not a bad job. Good. He's going to have good days, bad days, blah, blah. And he's like, I was in the Marine Corps. I know. He's like, oh yeah, you definitely know that. Yeah. So anyway, he ends up doing that. And then he's like, okay, cool. We'll see you at the next DEP meeting. And I just remember I was like, wait, do I go through boot camp in like the Christmas and Thanksgiving and all? I didn't even put that together. Right. Like I went through every holiday, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. A lot of people are like, Veterans Day doesn't count. I'm like, no, in the military it counts because that's a holiday for the federal purposes. And there's no training that happens. So you're just hanging out in boot camp doing stupid stuff. So yeah, I went through every holiday, but I'll never forget the guy next to me. He was going to be like some kind of engineering rate. And they're like, we can have you leave tomorrow. And he's like, whoa. No. I don't need that now. So yeah, then I ended up shipping out. Me and my stepdad got this big fight. Right. And, my mom like threatened, like, be like, I'll make sure you don't join, blah, blah, blah. She hates I tell that story, but it's the truth. And so I'll never forget. I left Barnes and Nobles. I called them. They're like, you're not showing up to work. I was like, yeah, dude, I got kicked out of my house. I'm leaving for the Navy in a month. Like, there's just nothing. I can't rent a place. Like, I got to say, see you later. I'm sorry. The guy, Donnie, coolest dude. Found out from a future sailor that worked at that same Barnes and Nobles that he was still there up until like a month before they had left. They're like, oh yeah, Donnie is a cool dude. I was like, yeah, he was.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Yeah. So they were kind of weirded out that we had such a similar story of joining and working in the same place. Well, anyway, yeah. So I ended up going up to Maryland and I just asked my recruiter, like, what do I do? And he's like, do I have to drive back down? Do I have to, what is this? And so luckily there was a career counselor there that was like, don't worry about it. He will do what's called a courtesy ship. And I didn't know this was a thing. He didn't know it was a thing, but it's like, you can technically ship from anywhere. It just changes the location. The Navy's still going to pay for you to go to boot camp. So, and it was even closer, right, than North Carolina. So I shipped out of Baltimore, Maryland, instead of actually North Carolina. So, and that's where I got yelled at. So,
so that was the first summer at high school. So you joined fairly young.
18, baby. 18. Yep.
So November is when you went there?
Yep.
Is when you shipped out?
Ice cold.
Yeah, absolutely. I went there in January and it was disgustingly cold. So can you think back to at boot camp, right? I always ask this question. Is there any point in time when you were there that like you had the thought like, what the hell am I doing here?
1,000,000%. The
like
first morning.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. I'll never forget. We're wearing our sweat tops, the PT gear, and we went through that night. And I just sat there and we gotten breakfast. We're getting yelled at, and I just was like, I couldn't even eat because like, what the fuck am I doing here? What did I do to get here? Like, I guess I like never really put together like the rubber meets the road of like, you're going to be yelled at. Your hair is going to be shaved off. You're going to be a nobody. Like you've never had that experience of go sit in a corner, be there, you idiot, with your buzz haircut, and no one's ever really talked to you like that. So yeah, that was my oh shit moment. And I'll never forget looking in the mirror too, after that haircut. I was like, whoa, I'm doing this. Like, this is real. I never felt my hair that short before. So yeah.
I'll never forget mine. I feel like mine was a few weeks in. It was probably like around like week 4. And I was one of the sticks because of how short I am. I was the not the guide on the PFC.
Oh, okay.
The one that held like the flag that like your division made. Yep. I was the second shortest, not the first. The first is the guide on. And I remember we were sitting in the drill hall, and I don't know like what it was that we were like getting yelled at because we were messing up the marching, and like that. I remember I was like, what the hell am I doing here, dude? Yep. But like I was already deep in it at that point.
We all, and I think there were several moments of that, but it wasn't always engaged. Like it was always in passing, like a fleeting thought, but that first memory is definitely like, what am I doing here? Yeah. That
For
was like
sure.
the most concrete one where I was like, I could probably get out of this now if I need
Right.
to.
And
And
especially being like that young. Like, I mean, not to say I was so much older, but I was 22 when I joined. Like, I was married, so like, I already had a little bit of life experience. Like, I couldn't imagine like 17-year-old me doing that. Actually, like now, like I think about it, especially like knowing how immature I was.
oh man, this organization is built for immature people. If you are not mature, they will make sure you at least get the bare bones to survive, breathe, eat, and be place of work on time. Like
Right.
it's. But I think that's what's so weird about this organization is the fact that like you could be the most special person per se, right? Like we've dealt with people where I'm like, how did you make it through boot camp? And no idea, but you did X, Y, and Z and you made it through. Cool. But then you have people on the other spectrum that are like master's degrees, like coming from wife, kids, they were just some bad hand and they were like, I need health insurance and a paycheck and this is it,
Right. Mhm.
and you're like, well, we got a spot for you too.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see that disparity between those two groups and types of people that'll join. So yeah.
So, did you go to core school in? You went to the real core school in Great Lakes, as they say.
I like how you said real because I'm a dying breed. Do you understand that? I'm a fucking dinosaur here.
Okay.
I'm a dinosaur. So Great Lakes was where the original core school was at. Now, to be fair, like people say that, but core school is also held in San Diego and various other places too. So I think that that's just like a very my generation type thing,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
not particular to just corpsmen in general. But yeah, that's where I went to. I'm not like you go to San Antonio and you're like, oh, nostalgic. I was at what do they call it? Something Hall. What's it called?
And Anderson Hall.
I was at Anderson Hall, and I was like, I don't even know what that place is. So yeah, but you went through that and you actually got to experience it, and now you're able to look back and say, wow, I remember fondly that and visit back. But mine, I think there's still like a gate around the original core school that's there in Great Lakes. Yeah.
So, any fond memories going through core school? Like, did you? Because when you said you went to recruiter, you didn't necessarily want to be corpsman. You're just like, well, medical's good. So when you finally got there and like started going through the training and whatnot, did you have any kind of like mindset shift, or did you actually enjoy it, or what was your mindset like going through that?
As far as like a fond memory of core school, I just remember I was like, do I really want to do this? Because I joined in 2008, not to sound like I'm this old dated motherfucker that's out here that's like, salty, but I had so many HM2s that I was like, oh my God, you've actually gone to war. Like you're like a hero, I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, it's just like what's pumped into your brain about the military. Like, whoa, these are the guys. They did it. Right now,
Right.
granted, like it was 2008. So these guys weren't like the people that were getting a lot of the, bronze stars and stuff at this point. It was kind of coming down as far as that era. It was not as kinetic as it was. So, but I'll never forget. They made us stand up and they're like, if you're a male, stand up. You guys are going to Iraq or Afghanistan in 6 months. That was it. And that's when I was like, oh, that's not what I expected. And not what not what I signed up for. I knew it could happen, but I just didn't know how fast these things happen. Right. So anyway, what ended up happening was, because when I was in Fayetteville, I had friends that were in the army because that's an army based area. And they were all like special forces and, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, why don't you join the army? And I was like, well, because you guys deploy for 18 months, because
Right.
Bush said so. And that's why I'm not going to, see my family for 2 years almost. Excuse me. And I was like, I'm good. And I ended up, almost going anyway. So, but that was the moment that really stood out for me that this shit's real. And that's why I look at the current people and they're like, well, will I deploy? I was like, dude, it could happen tomorrow. Like, and I don't say it to scare you. I say it because I met people that joined in 2001. they were in boot camp during 9/11, and they're like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, that meant I was going to war like
Right.
immediately. And so they went like, oh, I'm here for college education. And then that whole idea switched very quickly. And so that is something I've really held on to, because I'm like, I want to project that, not fear, but awareness on the generation, because that was instilled so quickly into me.
Right.
So
That's the hardest thing now, man. Like, you know, where I'm at with, you know, the younger people coming in, it's like, it's having them understand that it's like, you know, they just think it's rainbows and butterflies, and, you know, it's a scary thing understanding where their mindset is, and like it's even scarier thinking how they would react if like that situation ever like happened again. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
kind of going off that plug, I always like to ask this question. Um, do you remember where you were on 9/11? Kind of
Oh
obviously going
yeah.
backwards in the time frame, but you know,
No. I honestly, a lot of people, I think didn't get the same perspective as me. And, you know, I didn't get the same perspective as somebody that was like in New York City. Right. So I grew up south of DC near a naval base, and it was an air base. So obviously that is, and what goes on there is obviously very contentious in regards to like, you know, getting new equipment and technology out there. So it was like, where's going to be attacked next? Because we saw the plane in Philly or in Pennsylvania, we saw the Pentagon, which was attacked, we saw 9/11, and it's like I'd never seen a base lockdown so quick. It was like, nope. And then from that day on, I'll never forget anyone that wanted to go on that base for like months. It was like an hour wait to get on
yep.
base. Like they were not playing around. And so it was just like, man, you know, people that were used to driving on. I remember driving on base, and my stepdad, that was a contractor, would just show his ID, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Like not it was, or no, not even his ID. Sometimes they would, if they just saw the sticker. Remember the old base stickers, decals?
Mm-hmm.
They'd let us on, and that was
Yep.
it. And so like that for good, right? I think it's a good thing we did go to like actually scanning IDs and stuff like that. But it just, it's crazy to think that that's where I was at and what I remember. But I was also in the appropriate classroom. My obviously being a military town, a lot of people came from all different branches and stuff. My history teacher that I was in his classroom in 6th grade was a prior Marine, a drill instructor, had his campaign cover up there, like all that. And I'll never forget, because honestly, not every, you know, room had a TV in it, kids.
Right.
Okay. Understand, if they rolled in the box
The
TV, that,
car. Yep.
yeah, you knew it was something was going on. It
Yeah.
was usually Bill Nye the Science Guy, but you know, it might be something important. And I'll never forget, before he even turned it on, he said, remember where you're at. And this dude was like scruffy, peppered hair, big old mustache too, burly lumberjack kind of dude. And he was like, just remember where you're at right now. And he just knew. And I'm so glad he knew to prompt us on that, because that literally just made me think record in my life. I just had to press record and remember the rest of that day. And I
Would you
do.
would you say that that had any kind of um motivation factor in joining the military at all for you, or no?
Yes, because I actually did have people that I was living around that their dads deployed. And, you know, I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I'll never forget that. And this is before our internet era now, where you can like send a photo maybe
Right.
through the email or whatever. But I'll never forget, like, my buddy Ben, his dad was a senior chief on the carrier, and he was like out deployed doing Middle East ops and stuff like that. And they like got a chance. It was like, thank our heroes, like in between a commercial break. And they're like, he's like, it's going to be on this time and this time. And that's how they got to see their dad for like 20 seconds. Hey, my name's, you know, Chuck. I just want to say thanks to, you know, Ben and blah, blah, blah. That was it. And that was like, what do you mean? They're on this big gray ship. Like it definitely, like, it made me a little more patriotic. I don't say that's why I joined, but it's a reason why I joined. And people get all contentious of like the history of the Ottoman Empire and all that. I love and respect that. But I'm like, still, I can't not look at the, almost 3,000 people that passed away and not say like, we got to do something about this. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a factor, but not the factor. Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I, I guess I shouldn't say I love talking about that day, but it's a huge factor. Being from where I was from, right? Like my homeroom teacher, sixth grade, obviously, same grade as you.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband actually died on the phone
Wow.
in front of all of us. He was on the 80th something floor
Wow.
of when the towers fell. And then same kind of thing, right? I had an army base in my town, and everyone thought that that was next. But I lived in a commuter town, so everyone in my town worked in the city.
Yep.
So we had like 30, I think 36 people from my town passed away that day. But same thing, man. Like I remember what I was wearing. I remember still gives me goosebumps. Gives me goosebumps thinking about it. But like, fast forward today, a lot of our junior sailors weren't even born yet.
Yeah. Well, you know what I relate to them is I'm like, imagine your school, because a lot of them, their population grasp of like where it's at and their understanding. I was like, how many kids went to your high school? Right? Like put that in perspective. Now imagine, and very rarely would I meet someone that has over 3,000 kids in their high school. And like, just imagine they all died. Like
Right.
not to be mean or vindictive or vicious or whatever to their brains, but to give them a concept that they can grasp and be like, that's what I want you to understand. Think of that. Think of if everybody there passed away, how many moms, dads, brothers, sisters would be affected.
Right.
That'd be insane. It'd be a lot of people.
For sure.
So,
Yeah, I went to the in October. I drove from here up to Jersey for my sister's wedding, and I took kind of the long way, and I drove through PA, and I went to the Flight 93 National Park there in Pennsylvania. Highly recommended, man. It's really cool because when I think of Pennsylvania, I think of Philadelphia. Like I forget that Pennsylvania. It's actually a really pretty state, and that's a really really cool thing
lots
that
of
they did
Amish
there.
people. Lots of Amish people. You got Pittsburgh. That whole area of the country, there's a bunch of like misunderstood importance, right? Like the steel belt that's there, what that allowed our country to get into, and the role that it played. Like a lot of people need to refocus on that part of history and be like, okay, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, these were all major cities that were very much industrious at one point. Sadly, how can we continue that going in, the age of computer technology? I don't know, but it's pretty cool to see.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. I know we kind of went off topic there, but that's the whole
good,
point,
man.
right?
Yeah, it's good. Tangents.
Tangents, exactly. So, all right. So, you're in core school, you graduate. What was your first command that you went to?
Okay, so I didn't go to a command technically after that. I went to pharmacy tech C school, right?
Oh, that's right. I forgot you're a pharmacy tech. Yeah.
I was. Don't put that back on me, dude. Don't put it back on me. And this is where everyone's like, I'm clicking off the podcast. He had me until that. All right, let me preface real quick, okay? When you join the military and you're so impressionable, everyone says, get as much education, get as much this or that from them. Every little ounce of thing you can get out of this experience, do it. And mind you, they told me, hey, you're going to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. And I was like, what's that mean? Okay, well, I'm okay with doing that. That's what I signed up for. But I was like, okay, let me sign up for this because, well, they offered me surgical tech, orthopedic tech, like wrapping casts and stuff. And then they offered me pharmacy. And I was like, well, surgical, I don't want to scrub into cases and clean rooms. No. And then ortho, I don't know anyone that gets paid any decent money wrapping casts. Pharmacy sounds like it'd be good healthcare information. On top of that, I didn't understand I would be stuck in the pharmacy. Right. Like I thought this was like a feather in my cap. Cool. I'm a trained guy. I can do some pharmacy stuff. No, that means I was doing that job. Very, very much not conveyed appropriately by staff at that point. And I'll never forget that. But
where was C schools back then? They weren't in San Antonio at that point, or were they?
Correct. They were not. So
okay.
There was Naval School of Health Sciences, which there was one on East Coast and West Coast, one in San Diego, which is right next to it's still a schoolhouse now, but it's not called Naval School of Health Sciences. And they were on both sides. And so, for example, you would have like surgical techs that would go to East Coast and West Coast and they would get orders. And I was like, well, which one do you get? Does that affect where you get orders? And they're like, no, it doesn't. But I know people that were like East Coast with us and they only got those East Coast orders. That's changed now, obviously, with San Antonio, but back then that's how they did it. But yeah, I went to pharmacy tech school, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get knowledge on this. And yeah, I literally almost wanted to quit that school. I was like, I don't want to remember drug names and all this and what it's for and the drug class and cross interactions and math on this and dosing. And I was like, this is too much. Not what I want to do at all.
Right.
I powered through it, made it through. But that led me to my first tour. And I'll never forget, like the first day they sat me down, or everyone in the class, I think we had 13 students, and they were like, here's a sheet. It was yellow sheets, particularly. I remember it was yellow because I was like, we're in the military, we're using yellow pieces. All right. And it was like, what is your dream duty station? And I was like, USNS Mercy Detachment Station at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. I was a skater kid, as you guys know. The mecca of skateboarding is San Diego.
SoCal.
Never had been there, right? Like, so, and granted, I went there and I started just looking up everything I could to go skate. So I did not care or have any worry about the fact that everyone's like, that's a busy place to work. I said, I don't care. I want the lifestyle of California. This is when it was cool, not when I moved to Texas. But, you know, this is like when it was so cool. Skateboarding is still really hot there. And it was like the place to be.
Right.
So yeah, that's where my first command was at.
So did you enjoy it at all? Being there, being a pharmacy tech? Did you enjoy being there, not the pharmacy tech side of the house? Like,
I'll never forget, like the first 2 months I was there, I worked like the outpatient, like at the Walgreens, the CVS pharmacy thing. And I was staying late like every day. I was working like 10-hour days. And it was in the wintertime when I arrived, and I was like, man, I'm in San Diego, but I'm getting here when the sun is down and I'm leaving when the sun is down. And it's like, I just work in this pharmacy and just passing out meds, and it was chaos, like to be thrown into that. And eventually you get it, but they then switched me to like an inpatient side, which is where you make IVs and things like that. And that was like the epitome of my pharmacy tech life, of what I like to do job wise, in particular with that field. But yeah, it's definitely not capable of having that experience everywhere you go as a farm tech, sadly. So yeah.
I feel like that's definitely one of the jobs where, like, unless you want to do that, like, it's probably pretty hard to stay motivated. Like, it's impressive that you went through school and made it through school, you know, not necessarily wanting to do it. Because still to that day, man, that's still it's always a hot fill because
really, and nobody wants to be a pharmacy tech. I understand that.
It's that and lab tech are the two that are always hot fills.
The thing about it though is I'm glad I didn't pick, and I'll give more context real quick. I also picked a C school because they offered us orders which were like Okinawa, Japan, Guam, and then it was Camp Lejeune. Done. That was it. And I was like,
you mean in A school?
In A school,
those are the options. Okay.
That was it. And so I was like, that's not really where I wanted to go, you know? And I was like, well, I could get more education. I get another shot at orders. That's where that all panned out. You know, it paid off because I got exactly where I wanted, and I got there for 4 years. Like, you can't ask for and I got to go in the Mercy too, which was like everything I wanted happened. Everything that I wanted. And the farm tech part, probably not what I wanted exactly, but it's my token of sacrifice to do the things I wanted to do.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. Yeah.
So did you go to IDC school directly following that, or did you do another tour as a pharmacy tech?
So that's another good story. So what happened after that was I was at San Diego. I got back from the Mercy, and I'll never forget. She's retired now. I will say it. It was H1 Igman Hurtado. I will call you out. Yes, you got mad at me for being late to work. And I just was like, I don't even want to be a pharmacy tech anymore. I like the Navy, but I don't like this side of the Navy. Put me on a ship, put me somewhere where I can move and do stuff. This is the same job every day.
Right.
And so anyway, you know, I put in my terminal leave. I was like, I even wrote on their terminal leave. I'm done. You know what I mean? And one of the pharmacists, she's like, "Oh, I heard you put in your terminal leave. Like, what's going on? Like you don't want to stay in." It's like, I don't know, And when I was on the Mercy, one of my chiefs at the time was like, "Hey man, like when are you up for orders?" And it's like, "Well, we get back September. I'm up for orders." I think it was like a couple months after that. And he's like, "If you don't," and I didn't want to call him on the first selection. I was just like, let me see what happens. I'll try the system first. But this was the last time I could try. And I hit him up. I call him. I was like, "Hey, I'm picking orders. I'm trying to pick C duty because everyone knows I just did 4 years shore duty. C duty. There's nothing like, and I was at E4, so there wasn't going to be much anyway as a farm tech. And I picked Cherry Point, a wing squadron out there. And I was like, "Hey, I put that as my number one, just trying to respect that that's what the detailers want us to do. Not really where I want to go, but I would like to be operational." And so he's like, all right. Number two is Rota Spain. I forget what the rest were. And so he's like, calls the detailer, gets him hooked up. He's like, "I can't promise you this, but I think it's gonna be Rota Spain. We'll see what you get." Next day, orders pop. I got Rota Spain. I was like, "Well, I'm staying in now." 3 years to go to Europe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, dude. I like, as much as I could have done something else, like that's a life experience I wasn't going to have any other way. So I took it. And to be honest, probably my best tour overall.
You're at the hospital there?
Yeah.
Like obviously, I guess it's only okay.
Yeah, that's all. No, there's other billets, but not for farm tech, but there's other billets for people that are corpsmen, other places there. So yeah.
So I'm assuming you made second there, and then that's where you went to IDC school after your rota.
Yeah. So I had decided, because you can only do so much farm teching, right? Like
Right.
a pharmacy is a pharmacy is a pharmacy. In my opinion, it has the same regulations and requirements are applied there as anywhere else. Same kind of stuff has to happen to document and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to get, like, I want to go to sea duty, but am I going to grow my knowledge at all there? Probably in other fields. Like if I went to a bigger ship and I had to do x-rays and do preventive medicine stuff and things like that, I would maybe have that. But I was like, that's not really what I want. I wanted to commission. And so I was like, eventually I was talking about just getting out. That was like a year straight. I was like, I'm going to plan on getting out because what is the Navy going to offer me that I can't?
This is now? Again at Rota. You're going through this.
This is Then like the last year and a half there, I was like, all right, Nick, you got to really think. The dream goal would be to like get out and just do whatever you want to do, but that's not reality. And so I started looking at IDC, and then I just went up to one of our chiefs that was IDC, and I was like, I want to be one. And I was like, he's like, you sure? And I was like, yeah. And I mean, everyone always doubts the pharmacy tech guy. Like the pharmacy tech guy gets that, label of the tech guy. You're right. Not going to be anything else. And, I really feel for that because everyone looked at me as like you can only do one thing, count pills. And I'm like, no, there's so many other things I could do. And when I tell people I want to be a PA, like a physician assistant, they were like, oh, you have 0 patient experience or hours. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm stuck in this box of passing out pills and making IVs that go to people's bodies. And so eventually I just would work night shift, get my tasks done, and go work in the ER and hang out with those guys until I got a patient and like kind of rock and roll with them a little bit. One of the doctors wrote my letters. I think he was apprehensive because I didn't really tell him why I was down there. He thought I was just hanging out, but I was like, sir, just sign it, please. But yeah.
So what started, right? Because I mean, that's a big gap from, joining because you knew medical was a good job, right? Into you turning into wanting to be a PA, right? Like, so kind of bridge that gap for me. Like, where did and especially being like a tech, right? Like, you're not necessarily exposed to a
PA per se.
Exactly, right? A lot of patient care, stuff like that. Where did that
I'll tell you this. So part of it was when I was going through my tech time, I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, so I have an option of I could go the most linear route from pharmacy tech. a pharmacist. But, and mind you, if you can do that and just apply, like there's not many people that apply. I'm not saying it's a push button, but it's pretty darn close a push button, because you need a acceptance letter from a pharmacy school. And most pharmacy schools require you to have all the sciences, all the maths, everything within 5 years. We're in the US Navy, in the military, where how many people have the time and the ability to complete all these classes within 5 years and perfectly be able to apply? Unless
Right.
you're on instructor duty, it usually doesn't happen. And so that's why instructor duty for techs, if they wanted to be one, is like the golden ticket to like, all right, I'm going to knock out every single thing to get there. And just seeing where that trajectory was going to take me, I was like, okay, what is something medical that's kind of in the same realm in regards to level of authority and things like that? And this guy I worked with, he's like, oh, I'm going to be a PA. And I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, it's a physician assistant. I start Googling. I was like, oh, this is like a really advanced corpsman, like IDC like type thing. And that's kind of what got me on that route. And I was like, cool. I like things where I can move around and diversify. Like people ask me, why don't you just go to med school? I'm like, that means I got to stick to one thing. I don't like that. I don't want to do that. If I want to go to derm, if I want to go to ortho, if I want to go to primary care, I'd like to jump around a little bit and have that. Because if anything, the pharmacy gig taught me, get out of that if you can and try and give yourself other avenues. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the PA thing went down that weird slope. And weirdly enough, that guy, he's not a PA, but his wife is going to PA school. So I guess he influenced two people in his life. I don't know, but yeah.
So is that what you're still actively pursuing? You're trying to,
yeah.
Okay.
So, so a lot of people think I have like a million excuses for this. And I swear when I break it down to people, I'm like Charlie from Always Sunny, like showing all the lines of like on the chart, you know what I mean? That meme where he's like, this is how it's going to happen or whatever. So yes, I'm still applying for that. I am applying again this year. Just took my SAT for the first time because I was in Japan during COVID lockdown, and I'm calling lieutenant commanders 04s to like, what do I do? Right. And so I'll be honest with you. Like I just had a talk today about my package. And I'm like, hey, I just arrived, but I would love to do it. And they're like, well, you just got here. They may deny it. And I was like, well, dude, I just had my life on hold for 2 years and 4 years, but then especially 2 years in Japan, or 2.5 years really, without being able to take this test, which really I applied without it, but it's a requirement. So it wasn't really a good application, even though the reason was solid, you know, they weren't going to accept me. And so, I mean, I'm calling the local high school in Japan that's on base. I can't do it because I'm an adult. The education center, Dantes or whatever the program was, they shut it down for all military bases. Then on top of that, the international schools outside of that area in the local areas of Japan allowed all the people that were there to reschedule their tests because of COVID. And so that meant everything was booked out a year out. Everybody got a shift. So, and they had no new test dates. So I was hands tied. And you're probably asking now, what about leave? Could you take leave back to the States? Yes, you could, but that was two other things. I had to then pay for a plane ticket, which I was willing to do. But then on top of that, I would have had to have 14 days off work because of ROM and quarantine stuff. And then I would have had to pay out of pocket to stay in a hotel. So I would have paid what, let's say $70 a night for a hotel for 14 days, plus the easy almost $2,000 plane ticket. We're talking about several thousands of dollars. And then being told if I can or cannot go. It was like all right, Nick, you are not going to do your SAT. But I'll tell you what, man, when I was getting orders back to the States, I booked that SAT while I was still in Japan. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'd already booked 2 SATs in Japan trying to do that while it was still kind of this moving, living being of COVID, where essentially I couldn't, it was like whack-a-mole, like this area off limits, this area, not off limits. And then like I scheduled my SAT in a place and it's like off limits now. I was like, all right. So I just wasted $100 on an international SAT and I can't get a refund anymore either way. So I scheduled 2 SATs. that were canceled or I missed and just lost money on. So yeah.
That's there, man. I'm so happy that this COVID era is over, especially in the military. Well, hopefully it's over, I guess. I
I'll
don't know.
tell you on our side, it's lingering, and I'm not liking it. I'm like, I tell people this, I'm not like an anti person. Okay. I got the booster, I got all that stuff, but I'm just like, I'm ready to
Move on.
move on,
Yeah,
move on.
for sure.
Okay.
So, what was IDC school like for you, right? Like, I mean, again, I can only imagine, right? Like someone like me coming from like a small boy going to IDC school, right? Like I'm exposed to a lot of what it is, right? Because I work hand in hand, with an IDC, like coming from my background. But like I couldn't imagine, someone like you just coming from like the tech world, not necessarily, ever messing like with a medical record or, like stuff like that. Like so, or like running a program, right? Like heat stress or hearing conservation and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
so
So
what was that like?
essentially what happened was I tell people IDC school, independent duty corpsman school, like a pseudo PA without treating kids or geriatrics essentially, or anything like that, is essentially like shooting a gun, right? When you went to boot camp, you had the kids that were like, I shot every week. I took it to high school, right? And they shoot and they suck, right? And then you have the people that have never shot before that have no bad skills that kind of get that perfect ground level, but will miss some of the on hands type training. That's essentially what I look at IDC school from my perspective. It was good because I was starting from nothing, but it was bad because I also had nothing. So people would be like, oh yeah, just do this, to, treat, a abscess or something like that. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. I just knew we gave antibiotics. Okay, cool. Thanks, man. And then, for me, that was just a huge learning curve. So
That's a good analogy. Like I was thinking about following up with that, but you just said it, right? Like, you know, you have no bad habits if you've never done it before. So it's a little bit easier to train, right? So you're not falling back in anything that's may not necessarily be the right way to do things.
Yeah. And I mean, have I probably developed some bad habits afterwards? 100% I have, just like everyone else. But it's all about trying to find the most efficient way to complete it, because there's textbook ways of seeing a patient, right? Even for doctors. And then it's like these insurance companies are like, no, dude, you have 20 minutes. I'm not paying you for an hour of your time for this one person. So I think everybody has to learn that level of efficiency and where you can and can't do certain things. So yeah.
Are you overall happy with the with the IDC route? Like happy that you did it?
1,000,000% yes, right? Like, because if I was still a tech today, I would be miserable, right? Because there would be no growth. And even right now, I'm still looking for ways to grow, even as this. And I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, this was the right move. And everybody that I talk to, they're always like, why did you go that? And I tell them I was a farm tech, and they're like, oh yeah, you did good. You're fine. But it's just difficult to have that barrier, I guess you could say. So essentially, yes, it did make me happier to see patients. I like doing that rather than filling prescriptions or whatever, right? There's that. But what else do I like about it? I get more independence. Obviously, that's in the title, but it's definitely something that, like, you can kind of be engulfed in medicine. You can be engulfed in Navy. You can be engulfed in kind of a lot of other things, and pick and choose where you want to be at. Some make rank more than others, but some don't. And that's just kind of the reality of it, and where you're at, and needs the Navy and all that stuff too. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. So
it's definitely a community within a community too. Like, it's like, oh, you're not an IDC, or oh, you're an IDC. You know what I mean? Like,
I will tell you this. As much as it's weird, because when I was a tech, I can compare what it was like. And imagine, like, IDC is here, right? Regular quad zero is here. Farm tech is here, right? Like, that is a real thing that you're a farm tech. You know what I mean? And I hated that. But it's weird because as I went up to IDC, it's like, oh, you're an IDC, you know? And
Right.
it's like, I didn't change as a person. I had the same honor, courage, commitment, and these things that I carried with me in the toolbox to go do other stuff. Right. So when I told people as a pharmacy tech, I want to be a PA, I could still do that job. It just frustrated me that like I had to like prove myself through some arbitrary schooling and things like that, that, you know, I now earned a little bit of a, okay, you know, and I didn't like that because I don't think that's how medicine works. If that's the case, everyone would go from medical assistant to licensed vocational nurse to RN to, you know what I mean? And say that then be like a freaking nurse practitioner or physician assistant. Then they go for a doctor. You know, that's not how this works.
Right.
There's times where you have to cut through some of the BS. So yeah.
All right. So I guess shifting gears now, right? To probably get to what everyone wants to hear. What made you get into YouTube? Like where did Nicky MGTV start? Like
Okay.
what gave you the first thought?
Okay. So I'll tell you this. I cringe worthy. Like I can't tell you how bad the cringeworthiness was of my videos when I first started, and they were video game videos. Like they were not even related to the military.
What year are we talking? What?
2016.
Okay.
And I'll never forget there was like I wanted to cover like video game news and stuff I thought was cool, you know. And I would just get bombarded with dislikes. Like the video game community is just a savage. Like in a nutshell, it's either like this weirdly you're super cool or everyone's just dumb and lame. That's it. And I'm better than you, you know? So anyway, I tried to cover some news and I was like, oh yeah, let me talk about this or that. And did not pan out at all, unfortunately. But
what video games were they? Or is it all bunch or was it like one
it's all
certain one?
bunch. It could be Halo, it could be Nintendo, it could be whatever it was. And then I saw JT Suits, you know. I'll never forget, he had just gotten out of the military. He's sitting on the back of a porch talking about how he's like, yeah, I'm gonna use my GI Bill or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. This guy that like, why does he get so many views? He's just talking about like the military, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started watching because I liked that he did like a podcast of him and these other veterans sitting down and gave these other perspectives. And they were characters, right? They were people that like had different backgrounds that I never experienced, I never knew about. And so I was like, man, I'd love to be on JT's channel. He had like 5,000 or 6,000 subs. I hit up JT. This is sometime in 2016. He's like, yeah, sure. Okay. And I wasn't like writing repetitively. It was like once every couple months between that. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be in San Diego. Like, I'm letting you know I will be there in January. I was on house hunting leave. I rented a Hyundai Accent and I forget how much it was. I went up to drive to his house and I didn't need the car. I just was like staying in the lodge. So I could have never done this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was talking to Justine about this and I was like, oh, we're going to go drive to Thousand Oaks to go film a YouTube video. Mind you, I made $0 off YouTube, no subscribers. I just made them for fun. And, you know, you always look up how to get views on YouTube. Right. And,
Right.
you know, it's just like trying to understand what do I make videos about? And this is when listicles like top 5, this top 10, you know, and I just was like, I showed up with my little Canon 70D like I was Casey Neistat. And he influenced me to get it. Be honest with you, I'm sure Casey Neistat made a lot of Canon 70Ds get sold. There's no way. Yeah, dude.
And boosted boards.
And boosted boards and Rode mics and Ray-Ban sunglasses and everything else, right? So I ended up going up there and I was like, hey man, like I gotta like let's film, you know. And so I'll never forget. He's like, what do you want to film? I was like, top 5 best and worst jobs in the Navy. He's like, how about I do the top 5 worst, you do the top 5 best? Like, all right, cool. And we filmed it. And I'll never forget like he had the G7X, which is like the other Canon camera everyone used to vlog with.
Mhm.
And there's like no microphone on it. And we're in his living room, and my camera picks up audio pretty well because it's a little better of a camera. And he's like, you know, I was like, whoa, dude, you're like yelling. He's like, well, you're gonna have to because the camera's so far away. And I was like, I forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, me and JT definitely, you know, hit that video. He's like, we'll get you 1,000. And mind you, he went from 5,000, 6,000 to 26,000. So I was like, oh man, like this might be a good move for me, man. I've never been on a channel or anything where someone had 26,000 subs. So yeah, that's, and then I got to 1,000 within a couple of days. Just boom, 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 boom. But I also had like an archive of like 15, 20 videos where they're like, oh, who's this guy? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Put me on immediately. So I owe JT a lot for that. So yeah, the JT thing happened. And then essentially I just saw a gap in the level of information that's being put out. And I didn't really have that much awareness. I wasn't like, ding, ding. Oh, you're going to be the informational guy about the military. It was just like I'll just share my experience in my life and what I know about the military. And because I'd realized too, I was like, dude, most of these people making videos, no offense to them, they were like a couple years in, if that. And I was like,
Right.
I was at 8 years when I was on JT channel. I was like, I've never seen anyone making content from that perspective. And so that was my one leverage point of this. But at the same time, I did notice like a lot of kids were like, well, I don't relate to this guy, Nicky, because he's been in so long. I want to know
Right.
about from the dude that's like 20 years old and sits awkwardly in his, you know, barracks room. I went to boot camp last week.
Right.
It was
There's a
really
lot of those
scary.
videos.
Oh, dude. Oh my gosh. It's okay. Boot camp doesn't change that much, but
So
okay.
do you did you like at the time, right? Did you like pick his brain at all as far as like, you know, how does the, algorithm work? Like did he give you like any hints or tips to like how to be successful on YouTube? Or
No, not really. Not in that sense. Not like, hey man, you like he just made videos, which wasn't bad. You know, like there's just a point where you're just jiving and things are working and you know, funny things happen. And I almost think happening organically like that can be better or allow you to see that it can be fun.
right.
Now, once you get to like, oh, I'm trying to nail this algorithm, like there's a lot of things I can tell you about it now, but I'm like, okay, well, you know, you can follow every rule in the book and still not, you know, make a great video that gets a ton of views, right? Like I've seen some videos where I'm like, man, this video had 500 views and I'm like, this was a solid video. I don't know what's going on with it. And I don't know why. I usually can teach people how to make stuff a little bit better, but it's not going to guarantee, right, that you're successful either. So
So the real key to your transition was JT to kind of go from those video game videos that you were saying to switch kind of to the Navy thing.
well, I'd already made like 10 to 15 videos, and I took Casey Neistat's advice literal. He said, just record. So
Yep.
my first couple videos were me on my MacBook Air, record with my FaceTime camera, record, upload, record, upload. And then I was like, I have a 70D. I should use that, right? Then I use that. Then you know, and slowly it's just me like chipping away at this thing to get content better and better and better. And so I've had a lot of people, everyone from my buddy Matt Enriquez to Austin Alexander to Bully Juice to all these people that have sat down with me and been like, hey, dude, you need to do more of this or this or this. And like kind of, you know, show me because I'm not looking at it from this hyper analytical perspective. I'm looking at it just making YouTube videos. Like if you wanted a video on how to be a mortician in the military, which there's only what 11 to 14 at any time, that's a video that's only important to like 11, 14 people for the most
Right.
part, right? So, you know, not a high volume, but you know, I could have definitely understood that. So I try and now have things more applicable or find ways to get them more beneficial to the mass audience. if you will.
So did at any point, I'm sure it did eventually, to where your YouTube was being addressed at work for any reason?
Oh yeah. Okay. So in good and bad, okay. I don't want to say it's all bad, but it has been a roller coaster. So when I first started, I was in IDC school, and people were like, "How can you tell me about this channel?" And I was like, "Because I wasn't gonna embarrass myself and like
Right.
be the laughing stock of everything," which I already was with people in my class. And they made fun of me like every day for a year. My buddy Justin that was there, I'll never forget. Like we were walking in Balboa at the hospital there for Naval Medical Center San Diego by the subway, and like I was walking with him just like whatever. I'd never been recognized before. Never. This kid geeks out. He's wearing a navy ball cap. Like he's in depth. He's got this folder thing. He's like, oh my God, I watch you every day. Like every video you put, oh my God, thank you. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh dude, like you're welcome. Like I just make it because I like them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I never understood people watch these, right? Like I didn't, that didn't come into my head. And the guy Justin, everyone else, I never got made fun of again after that by them.
That's
Never.
cool.
Yeah, I think that showed them they're like, oh shit, this is something big. And I was like, and I'll never forget Justin's words as he looked at me. He said, "I think this is bigger than you think," and that was like whole like think about it now. It kind of gives me chills because like yeah, dude, that was big. Like I had 10,000 subs. Yeah, it wasn't the groundbreaking thing, but it was definitely something that I was like, I've actually, done something,
Right, for
and
sure.
I was proud of
It's,
that.
that's something not a lot of people have considered they've done.
Yeah. So, and you said it did affect work. So I then went to Japan. They kind of knew about it. People, and there was one guy who went off because he tried to say, "Oh, you're just like a chief. You just ramble." And I was like, "All right, maybe I do, but that's what I do." Okay. And I was just like, shut up. And that's the nice way I'll say that. And we were like at a muster where all these officers were at, and they're like, "Oh, chill out, man." I was like, "No, don't talk about my channel. Don't talk about my videos because it wasn't constructive. There was nothing. He wasn't like, hey, man, you could like cut a little bit of the ums out. You could cut this out, or you could do this or that, right? Don't come to me about criticism to my face and be like, expect me not to be like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? There's nothing he had offered. So yeah, there's that. I've had commands try and come after me legally through that pipeline that I've talked about them, but again, all the information is public. I don't wear the uniform when I do that, and at the same time, it's factual information that's been confirmed by other people that I'm talking about, and so. And I also say I don't represent the government, all that kind of stuff, because I tell people it's a proof of this. Like, if I went to an A school, say Corman A school right now, would they call me HM1 or would they call me Nicky? They'd call me Nicky.
Right.
And that now, granted, does that get me in a little bit of murky water when I'm dealing with people and I'm wearing the uniform? Yes, I tell them I'm not Nicky. I'm HM1 right now, right? Like those are two different people.
Right.
For the sake of professionalism. But yeah, that's pretty much how that's been intertwined. And so, yeah.
Is that getting, I mean, because you're up to like what, like 150?
135 right now.
135, right? Like,
Yeah.
have you noticed that that's been getting like harder as you grow?
No, because I'll say this, like, I do not let that be my defining factor. I would say people at my last job that I was at were like, oh, he just does YouTube. Like that's Mac. Like I was not Nicky at all, right? Like Pete, I think from the outside, people would be like, oh, that's that guy Nicky. And they're like, oh yeah, that's Mac. And they're like, what? And they're like, no, he works here. He's that's who he is, And so it was always funny seeing people that were patients or whatever that would kind of like, whoa, that's that guy. And then the staff would be like, chill out. It's okay. He's a good guy. You just, if you want to talk to him, I mean, I can grab him. And they're like, no. I was like, all right. One kid did tell me that I was with the Marines, right? And we were in the same clinic building. and he came in and requested for me to be his provider and see him. And the kid broke his heart. He's like, that's not how that works. We're with a different unit. We have our own providers. Like, if you want to see him, you can. I mean, I can get him, but it wasn't like a focus or center point of my job per se. But yeah.
I must say kind of two things. Like you, and we've had this conversation several times, like offline, but like, yeah, like I love how tactful you are
Yeah.
in like your content, and uh, it's fun to watch from the outside, right?
Yeah.
And
I think it's more fun for active duty to watch because they're like, "Ooh, I see what he did there."
yeah,
Yeah,
for
and it's like
sure.
a good play,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm like, yeah. So, but keep
And
going, sorry.
like what personally, like how do you feel like when instances like that, like the kid like asks for you, like stuff like that, like how on like a day to day, like how does that make you feel? Like does it, is it, do you still get like gratification out of it, like knowing that like you're reaching all these people, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's a deep question, you know. You it's hard because it's a mix because I just want to be treated like a normal person. You know what I mean? And
right.
I think the people that I work with now that like the couple days I've been around as I've moved into this new spot, they're like, okay, he's a normal person. Okay, he's cool. Okay, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I just put videos on the internet. You guys could do the same thing.
Right.
Does it overwhelm me? Is that kind of the question here that I
Yeah.
have the impact?
Yeah.
Yes, because I'll say this: if I make something now, it gets seen.
Right.
That is what's scary now.
Hmm.
I know if I make it, someone at that command watches it. I know if I say something, someone maybe from my command watches it. And I know how all that can kind of blend together. So it's it's why you have to be tactful. But
Right.
I'll be honest, I don't think I would have probably been able to do this if I was like an E3 going through it, and being able to navigate that minefield would be a lot harder than it is kind of with somebody with some years in maturity and kind of understanding the limits per se. So
For
yeah.
sure. But it's just it must be really interesting, like from your aspect, right? Especially with like the younger sailors coming in, like, you know, YouTubers, right? I mean, unfortunately, like that, that is what you are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Is that's their
Dream
Brad
job.
Pitts. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
their actors, right? Like it's so like it must just be, it's probably like just, it probably just feels weird sometimes. I could only imagine. Like
Well, it's funny because a lot of these kids will play it off. It's like, I don't, oh yeah, H1, you know, but, and then like later on, they're like, yeah, I did watch you. I follow you on Instagram and I did it. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, say like, oh, dude, I watch your videos. Awesome. I always tell people, thank you for watching. Like,
mhm,
literally, because that's why I made it, right? It wasn't to be like locked in a closet and played, you know, in my room to myself, right? So I have a question for you.
all right.
Okay. Because I always like to hear this because no one ever tells you everything to your face. And I like unfiltered feedback. I like hearing it, and because it doesn't affect me either way. And it can't because I don't know these people. What have people said to you about me? Because I'm not sure if I've ever come up in conversation.
I mean, you have, uh, but it's only with people that have worked with you. It's honestly, it's only really happened at this command with,
Yeah.
with the people that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Um, and but like they say that, like, it's just HM1. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like they never really like you know went off and emphasized on the YouTube thing. You were just,
Well,
you're like, yeah, like yeah, I know him, and he did YouTube, right? Like kind of like what you said before.
because people, I think all the time think that if I'm making content, I'm like at work filming something, you know, and editing. And I'm like, that's not even what I do. Like, this is all my off time. This is my spare bedroom. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about it that way, but yeah. So,
So I know you said we kind of, when we talked offline, you kind of have this new philosophy on how you want to do things, but where do you see yourself? You know, where's the channel in 5 years? Where's the channel? When you retire in 6 years or 7 years, or like where, do you even think out that far?
I've try to not, because it scares me a little bit. Right? It scares me because like, what if I don't meet that goal? Right? Like I'm setting myself up for some arbitrary failure. Okay. On the same spot, I have to tell people, I'm like, I have to love making that video that day. Right? Like that is the reality of this. You know, I could say I want to have 500,000 subscribers, but if I'm not enjoying that video that day, it doesn't really matter. It's going to come across to the video, and like you can only focus on one video at a time. That's it. That's it. And that is the hardest thing, because if you're kind of all over the place with trying to like maximize views and everything else, it's gonna burn you out. You know, like and I noticed that, like, I understand what it takes, but I also have to say to myself, like, I am one person with a couple lights, a computer, and a camera, right? There's a whole team that run some of these channels, and people that just focus on analytics and focus on thumbnails and focus on editing and focus on the filming and like I am the one person doing that, all of it. So I got to give myself a little slack and be like, all right, Nick, you're doing well. Okay. Maybe things aren't perfect, but you know, it'll be it. I would say this. I will tell you that there was somebody that was like, dude, do you realize how many people you've had join? Like we were talking about it. Like is it a third class that asked me in E4? He was like, do you know how many people you've probably helped join the Navy? I was like, a lot. And I said, what's crazy about it is I've got nothing for it. You know what I mean? And realistically, I mean, all I want, I think, from it is to say, hey man, you helped me out. Appreciate it. That's it. And then what I want every person here to do is take that thankfulness and be like, oh shit, I can, flick a little bit of knowledge down the hill to the next person. Right. And maybe that will get them. That's all I want. And that's like the legacy. That's it. You know, I know it's Gary Vaynerchuk, like, talking like that, but it's a legacy. That's all it is. So, views, or I would say numbers, are not the biggest thing of concern anymore. But and obviously I make stuff because I want it to do well, but I also want to like, if I want to talk about something that I know is going to get 8,000 views, I'll talk about it. Like there's certain videos I've made recently that I'm like, just want to make it. I know it's not going to do well, but I want to make it because I got to get my voice out there a little bit. So yeah.
Is there any goals that you have for the channel? Like maybe have it be, different kind of content, have it be, I don't know, anything else, or you just kind of want to stay in the same path that, I mean, obviously it is working for you, but
it is, you're very right. It does work, right? Because everyone likes drama, that's the reality right now. And I will tell you guys this right now, whoever's watching this, that drama love is all the way up into the officer ranks, very high, and definitely down into the E1, E2 ranks. But I mean, I get messages from everywhere up and down the chain of like ranks that are like, hey, you should cover this or this or this, because I think people like the way I tactfully cover things, and they're like, we need this. It's something that the military and the Navy and all these people will never actually be able to say, but because I'm an independent creator saying it, I usually can present that idea, right? And say, well, if this and this happened, you could maybe think this is probably the case, or what could be the outcome, right? So it's hard because, what I'd like to go into some like history stuff if I could, because I think that would give some growth to the channel over time, and you're like, oh, that, stuff that people can always revisit. But the drama stuff doesn't always get that. It gets a good initial burst. But I want to do some more thought out pieces, revisit some people, some drama in the Navy. Like I want to go back and interview people that I've talked about, or whatever else. So yeah, that's the plan right now that I'm thinking of. So
what made you shift from kind of what you started out, more informational based, rate, this is what this rate does, this is what boot camp's like,
Yep.
bloody bloody, to more so what you do now? Was it just like the results thing, like those videos just stopped doing well, or you just got tired of making
making them
best five rates?
Yeah, you just get tired of it, and you're like, I was like, oh, what can I make now that would be informational? And I have shifted my content, but I haven't shifted my content, and I'll explain that. So I tell people, I'm like, I just got tired of finding context to talk about the information. So top 5 Navy jobs, top 5 force, now if some guy said quits, leaves the Navy and flips the bird off to the commanding officer and leaves, and there's a video of it, now I can be like, oh yeah, undesignated seaman, one of the worst jobs, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I go into that. But the framework or the context, the vehicle at which I delivered that information was through this pissed off seaman that was chipping paint, right?
Mhm.
It's the same idea. It's just a different vehicle at which I've done it. And it allows me to give a reference point. So people are like, oh, now I understand more about the Navy. I have a picture, a video, or photo, or whatever, to give context to it and kind of help people out, which I think I would never be able to give given access to just go on a naval vessel and start shooting videos or photos and start being like, yeah, look at where I'm at, guys. It just won't happen. So I have to take those publicly brought up things and kind of go off that. So yeah.
Is there anything that you've turned down? Like have it be, my Navy HR reached out to you, or, someone in the upper chain of command reach out to you? Has there been any kind of content that you've either had to turn down or that you wanted to make that you weren't able to make happen?
There was one that I didn't make because it was too close to home for me and where I worked at. And I respected this guy enough to not make it. And it was, I'll just say what it was. I'm not going to give his name, but it was essentially like he had a spouse that was in the States, driving this broken down Beamer. He was giving her no money, all this other stuff. She was blowing up on TikTok about harassment and stuff like that. And, I was like, okay, he's not my command. I could talk about this technically, but, I know this guy and I think it's too close to home. That's the only time I've personally done that. Only time I can say that. There's definitely been times where I've talked about people and I'm like, that's just what it is, man. I'm going to talk about it. And, I realize that there's things that I agree and disagree with Philip DeFranco that he does. And I kind of rip from him, right? The format type stuff. But I have to say, I would appreciate that there's times where I'm like, he's on Joe Rogan's podcast and he'll rip Joe Rogan on a show. Like, this guy's an idiot for saying this, right? And that's just, and I've realized as I get older, that's okay.
Yeah,
it is, because we're not the same. Just because we had one connecting inner point, on the scale of whatever, doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything. And I can rip you about your thoughts on ivermectin, whatever it is. So,
and on the flip side, just because you have different thoughts doesn't mean you can't be friends either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've told people, I'm like, and there is one person, I will take that back. There is a mass communication specialist type person for the Air Force that made a video or some posts that were very aggressive towards stuff that was going on in the Air Force. And I was like, she's pretty big, not big enough that if I mentioned her, I think a lot of people would probably, easily track her down. But I was like, hey, I want to make a video about this, but I know that you're in a vulnerable spot. You're trying to leave this command because of whatever. Do you want me to make a video? Is that okay with you? And she's like, I'd prefer you not. And I was like, okay, full. I respect certain boundaries where I don't want it to affect your personal life, right? Right. If someone like this put out something that is obvious. Now hers was definitely fair game, fair opinions, right? But very aggressive, fair opinions that would probably ruffle feathers of upper people, but they could do nothing about it from my perspective and knowledge. But if you're the person that's in boot camp that just got massed 3 times, which there's one that got massed twice, that flipped the bird, said screw the leadership, blah blah blah. You did that to yourself, man. You're already in the shitter. You stay there. That's my opinion. So yeah.
So you've never been approached by Big Navy to do anything? Who was? What was it I think it was Alex, right? That went and did that that day with Jocko or whatever with my Navy HR.
Oh, dude, I gotta be totally transparent. Totally transparent. When Austin came on the scene, I was like, damn, dude, this guy's blowing. like pat, like, and then he's like 30K. I was like, oh, we're about to say, he's just bam, bam, bam. And it was like overnight 100K. Like he unlocked the fitness challenge thing. And I was like, damn, dude, like I'm here. What am I doing? And, you know, obviously I'm not the fitness guru, right? I'm running more now, but I'm like, damn, okay. I was definitely like, man, I really would like to be like him. And, you know, that's when sometimes you surround yourself with people that will help you. And he's one of those. But Big Navy did offer me something, and I'm going to shout out. He's now retired now. Master Chief Lewis. He's an MC. He was the lead MC for the community. And he was like, I want you to be one of the social media people for the Pentagon at the Big Navy level for Chinfo. And I was like, sick. We get all this stuff going. He's like, I need this from you in order to get the ball rolling. And we've all heard about these by name requests from an admiral. Like you're not getting orders anywhere special unless an admiral signs and says you're going there. And I was like, whoa, I'm getting a letter of by name request from this admiral. Like I was so pleased. And it was like, man, I felt like I could turn everything I saw that was like not effective with the military social media. I could start having a positive effect where I think it should go. And granted, I'm not like the one doing every puppet thing, but I think I could have at least brought some insight to it. Anyway, because of my job as an IDC, they were like, nope, can't do it, Manning. And that's where that all went down. And so I always tell people, I'm like, the Navy does good things when it's like things make sense as far as numbers on a spreadsheet, but then there's the subjective benefit and gain that they can. How do you grasp what NICKY MGTV, this knowledge of my brain, can bring in the awareness and understanding of what culture is right now in the military and what people think about it and how we can like navigate this with what happens. So
yeah, I definitely feel like the Navy could utilize, I guess, social media, I guess would probably be the best word, so much better. Like, yep. I feel like they do it, but like they do it, you know, half-assed, or like, you know, you can kind of see it with recently with that whole video game thing they did.
Yeah.
Like with the video game team, it was like a thing. And now you don't hear anything about it because they just don't, I don't know. It didn't go about it the right way, I feel like.
Well, the thing about it is the issue with a lot of this is that everyone's trying to play this with red tape and, you know, gloves on and everything to play safe. And I appreciate that. But what they're missing out on is there's things where the Department of Defense, these branches, they try and act like corporations a little bit, right? Like they are run a little bit business-like, but whereas businesses can see like this TikTok person blows up, let's use them, their platform. Like, hell, I'll be honest with you. The dude that does a Skittle shake, that was a Marine, like they were trying to do something with him. Skittles was, right? And because of how it was, it just can't do it. You know what I mean? And there's just, it can't be adapted to. And I understand, but this is where like the greater benefit of this versus this random legal thing, you know, I don't know if it's, I got to be a little critical of JAG here and say, like, I don't know if it's just them trying to confirm that they still have a job or whatnot. You know, I'm sorry. I'm like, man, there's so many, how can we get to yes? Right. And I feel like a lot of times we say, how can we get to no? Because that's an easier route.
It is.
That frustrates me. So,
or it's because it's what we've always done. We don't want to adapt or whatever. But I mean, this is clearly the way things are going.
Where it's going, where it's going. But that's why I like the Marine Corps. I will give kudos to the Marine Corps social media people. They do a phenomenal job. They sell being a Marine. Like when I watch their stuff, I'm like, damn, I want to be a Marine. Yeah. And I'm in the Navy and I already know what they go through as a corpsman, right? I've already been with them. But you know, and then they got the social media influencer thing. And I know a lot of people joke about it, but I'm like, if the Navy made a social media influencer rate, put me up there. Let's do it.
ECM right there.
Yeah. I'll make it happen. That's actually a really good question. I have for some people at the Pentagon I could reach out to. Now that you're saying that, I would like to ask, is there any thought process into doing that? Or are they trying to wait and see what the Marine Corps does with it? Because, you know, it's really comes down to what branch is going to jump, what branch is going to take the risk. And, you know, it is what it is. I will say this: Air Force has played it very safe. Marine Corps is very aggressive. We're kind of like that middle of the ground area as far as Navy goes. But you can talk to Army too. They've been a little aggressive. They got their criticism for the Emma commercial and all that. I don't know if you saw that. And it's like, well, I don't know if I would go that aggressive. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah.
All right, Nicky. Well, I appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate you too,
obviously we've been friends the past, year or two, and I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you finally coming on this podcast.
I appreciate you actually bringing it back.
I'm trying. I have no excuse now. I'm on shore duty, so
yeah.
I definitely I think it can do good, but it's up to me to do it. But
you can.
I appreciate it. Hopefully, this obviously isn't the only time you're on here, or obviously the only time we do something together. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. And golf.
Yeah,
for sure.
Golf.
For sure. Yeah, man, I'm happy we finally got to do this, and I really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.